Okay, so I just choose my flyer, and I'm just going to flip through it real quick to decide which page to start with. I'm not going to do that one yet. I'm going to start with this one, with the page that I cut out from somewhere else. I'm going to add it to the back. So put that to the side. And I'm just going to open up my page, and I'm going to pour out some of my Mod Podge paper. Just about an even medium-sized puddle of it. Wipe it off with the sponge from the side. And I'm going to start by gluing down all of this, and I'm going to this bead. So. Okay, so now I got all the glue down. I'm going to lift it up. And I'm going to bring the other flyer page over to the side. So now we're going to just carefully try to stick this down. And I get a few problems when I have to lift it back up several times before I finally do get it, but that's okay. It shows you how easily this stuff is to lift up when you're using the glue, so it's forgiving. See? Just like that. You can lift it up and it's not already stuck. Very forgiving. Try this one more time. Place it down. I'm just going to gently smooth out the bubbles with my hand. Be very gentle with this so you don't tear the paper because the stuff's thin and the glue is very wet. Okay, then I just put the brayer over it to make sure everything's greased down, nice and tight, nice and clean. Holding the edge, just to make sure the hinge is good, making sure everything's still pressed properly. And this is another thing to show how forgiving the glue is. I didn't get enough glue on the one side, so you can just lift the tab right up where the glue is not sticking and put on more glue. Just gonna put it down back there gently and brayer over that edge again. Put that down, and then I just make sure once more that the hinge part of the flyer page is good and it's not sticking to itself, it's not running into itself. I want to make sure it's fairly even. And that's it. That was a satisfying page. Came out just right. Fairly. Now we're going to get into the second page, and I'm choosing the candy one. So experimenting with the glue. And I'm going to just speed up the process, and it's the same thing as the other one. Just going to glue it down. More glue. And we're just going to start with this page here. I started with the back page instead of being the direct page because I felt it would be better. Just take my page, line it up carefully with the image on the other side, place it down, and this one came out pretty quickly. So, very simple, brayer it over as usual. And any excess stuff you get, you can trim off, which I do with the Ghost page. Ta-da! See? That's what you get. Okay, and we're going to put it aside. Now we take our two flyer images. I had some crinkling problems and I had to start a second part of the video because the first part was a disaster. So what I'm doing here is taking a different approach, and I decided to put a little bit of glue on at a time instead of all at once, which is why I just put a little bit on the edge, as you can see, and I'm crinkling out as many wrinkles as I can because the paper just did not agree with me. So I'm just gonna carefully brayer over that, and I did my best to preserve the images and keep everything fairly smooth. And you just put it to the side and you continue gently layering the glue on in sections rather than all at once. It does actually help to do this. It has more control to it, so you don't have to worry about it all sticking down and making a big mess. So, just a little bit in this section here. I'm going to lay my paper down again, make sure it's smooth, use the brayer as you go, gently hold it down onto your glued section. Lift up the tab again. Put down more glue and continue this. See, I did get another crinkle, so I was careful about it. Lifted it up, put it down again, lifted it up, put it down. Constantly trying to play with this wrinkling problem. I think it's the thin paper though, so you might not have as much trouble if the paper's thicker. And I do have excess on the side part of this, so I trim it off afterwards and it looks just fine. And there we go. Creasing down the edge and got the full entire thing. Now we're going to add our cover. I decided to not use glue that time because I was so disappointed with the wrinkles and switched to tape. And it did work for the back part, but I was not as successful for the front. You'll find out. For the back part, it was quick, but as you might know, this tape is not forgiving at all. Once you stick it down, that paper is not coming up. One advantage to tape, though, is that there is no drying time. That's a great part about it. Yes, it was very sticky. I was very careful. Trying to be very, very careful. I'm just going to lift up the taped piece and then to take the front cover. I'm going to start with the back part of it first. So I lay it down flat. I align the edge with the back part so that it's perfect. I did my best to keep it aligned. Then I lift my page and carefully make sure it's aligned with that edge. Moving it over. And then gently start by pressing down the very, very edge of it to make it stick. And make sure it stays aligned. And then we just drop the page very gently. Make sure to smooth it out. And it turned out fine for this one. Now we start with the front cover, and I'm making sure that the pages are sticking together properly. So you can see we now have our chosen sections stuck together as a favorite Flier flip book, essentially. Now we're just going to start with the front, do the same thing. And this time I really did not have as much success. The tape did not agree with me, and I have a little accident. You'll hear about that in the end of this video. When I lined it up, it did not line up completely, and I dropped it, and oops, see? No forgiveness. There was no lifting it up. Alright, this came out not quite as I hoped. And I faced some wrinkling because I probably shouldn't have been working when people were home. And when I heard somebody's voice, it made me just drop the paper when I shouldn't have, and when I had the tape down, it ended up wrinkling. So it didn't turn out exactly perfect, but that's okay, because this piece, I guess you could say, has now a little more unique trait to it with the wrinkles, and since it's a monster on the front cover, it works because it just adds to the whole feel of the theme. But this is how it worked, and it came out okay. It taped together and glued together, and I now have my favorite pages glued and added in as a magazine, essentially, or a little flyer. So it's only showing what I want to see. And then I just glued it down on some scrapbook paper, did some embossing, colored in with gel pen, wrote down some stuff. And you can do anything you'd like. You don't just have to use tape or glue for projects like this. This was all an experiment, so it's not perfect. But you can use sewing to put together a full flyer or magazine or something you're wanting to add to your scrapbook page or journal. Or you can use tape, or you can use glue, or you can use whatever you please. Even staples will work. So you can use lots of things to do this and add your own thing, but I just was experimenting with Mod Podge, and Mod Podge kind of had some wrinkling problems, and so I tried tape, which ended up not so great either. But you can see on this page here, I'm not sure if you can see it from this point, but I got wrinkling, and that's the result of the Mod Podge and me not being used to using Mod Podge, and I put down the Mod Podge and the paper wrinkled, and it could partly be because the paper I am gluing is kind of thin, so it probably wouldn't be such a problem if you're doing scrapbook paper stuff, but gluing thin paper is more of a challenge. So I'm still practicing with that, and I'm hoping I'll get better, but for now it came out okay, and this is what I got. And then I did this other page, which I'll show you as part of my scrapbook project, and I just drew out some lines and squigglies and dots to match the candy theme and the color scheme of the other page, and I just used some moon jelly pens, and then I just wrote down what I liked about the flyer and the images that I enjoyed. And one little tip I will give is that if you don't have sheet covers for standard 12 by 12 scrapbook pages, and you just want a page that you want to work on and want to be able to add this in and not have to worry about finding a sheet cover, you can just take the side part of your 12 by 12 paper and you score about an inch in, which will give you this hinge. It's very important to have a hinge when you put this in the scrapbook spine part so that it bends like that. And I just took a hole punch, lined it up with the center of the page, which would be at 6 inches, and then I punched the holes and they line right up with the scrapbook album. So this is one way of putting in pages to your scrapbook albums, and if you're doing a journal, whatever works. So this is what I got, and it's okay, and hopefully those who try this, I'm sure some people have already, I hope you have more success in some ways than I did, but for now, thanks for watching. Have fun crafting.